What's up, guys? Welcome to the final episode of this block of training for the Nash and Arnold's. So I've come to the very end of this block of training, the end of the sort of week and a half worth of work in a week kind of template that we've been running. And it's been a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the success. My raw squat and my raw deadlift didn't go super well. I think that it's probably a combination, and somewhere there are a lot of factors to take into play anytime that things go well or things don't go well. So I think that for a number of reasons, my raw squat and deadlift didn't go well. Number one, my nutrition wasn't very good. That's 100% on me, and I haven't been following my macros. I haven't been doing a good job of checking in with Mark, and I just haven't put the effort and priority into that I should be. Another thing is I believe I was a little bit too aggressive with some of my load selections on my singles, and therefore the subsequent volume work on both my squat and my deadlift. I think my deadlift was going really well. I took some really big jumps simply because of what I could fit on the bar and the ego getting out of control when I was back home. A couple of really big deadlifts in Good Life gyms on noodle bars, and then came back in and missed a couple of reps with deadlifts the last few days. So probably exhausted what I had there by overshooting a little bit too early in the program. But today is all about the bench press. Today I came in, my bench has been going really well. I've done a good job of selecting the right loads. This template and this style of training has done really well for my bench press. So I wanted to test a couple things today. Mike and I decided to kind of scrap the last 2 days of the program and just kind of call it there. He made a Frozen reference and said it's time to let it go. I've never seen the movie, but he's got kids, and I imagine that was very relevant. So anyways, today I came in and did some competition bench. Now, a couple days ago, I had a really good bench session. I benched 172.5 at about an 8, maybe an 8.5. And it felt like there was a lot more there. So I knew that by the end of this block, I really wanted to come in and kind of see where I was at. I haven't hit a bench PR since my heaviest bench ever was at Worlds in 2016. So just over a year and a half now, I have not PR'd my bench. I had a 182.5 in the gym here that wasn't really all mine. It was really quick pause. May have had some assistance on the way up, and it's not one for the books kind of thing. But today I came in, warm-ups felt really, really good. Everything felt locked in and tight, and the grip was feeling good. We're gonna get Connor on the channel, and we're gonna do a video about the way that I've changed my grip. We'll get him to run through it. We'll maybe have a little bit of a discussion about it and show you guys how that works, because I believe that's contributed. It's been a factor in contributing to my bench going really well this training cycle, as well as my shoulders feeling really healthy at this point, which a lot of times they get pretty beat up. Anyways, back to the point. Got warmed up, things felt really, really good. Got through my warm-ups, got up to, I think I started my ramp-up sets at 157.5 kilos. Hit 157.5, felt like I probably could have taken it for a set of 5. Went up another 10 kilos, 167.5. That felt really good, probably like I had a triple, maybe set of 4 there. Then I went up to 177.5 and unracked it, and it was like, in my head, I was just like, that's it? It didn't feel heavy, it felt great, it felt locked in, brought it down, smashed it back up. Pauses were a little bit quick on my heavy attempts today. I will definitely admit that. Probably not what would pass as a competition pause. Probably a little bit shorter, but I don't care, whatever. Hit 177.5, went super well. Put another 2.5 kilos on the bar. Same thing, unracked it, felt great, brought it down, smashed it back up. Probably about the same speed as the 177.5. So I started getting really excited. You know, as soon as I racked the bar, I looked at Dylan and was like, more. Like, we got to put more weight on this bar. And put the extra 2.5 kilos on. Big milestone, 403 pounds, 182.5 kilos. And I missed it. Not super happy about that, but I am super happy about a 5 kilo all-time PR. So productive training cycle in some ways, not maybe so much in some other ways. I also went on to do some incline bench today because that's been feeling super, super good, and worked up 130, flew 140, flew 150, all out grind. It didn't feel that hard. It didn't feel that challenging. There was never any question of like, oh boy, I'm gonna miss this. It was really slow. I just didn't have a whole lot of jam left after all the comp benching maybe. But it felt good, it felt well grooved, it felt like it was where it should be. And 150 was way beyond where I thought I would get with the incline bench this training block. So again, very excited, very happy about that. As anybody who's followed my progress for any period of time knows, that I struggle with my bench. It's been a real struggle putting kilos on my bench and getting stronger and making progress. So super happy, super happy. Even if squat and deadlift maybe didn't go as well as they could have this block, there are definitely still some highlights throughout and some lessons to be learned for sure. So our question of the day today comes from Ben Borger. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but hopefully I'm close. And he asks if I ever switch up my deadlift accessory movements. He's been running my program and doing pause deadlifts, and he's wondering about swapping it and maybe doing some deficit deadlifts. Now, one of the things about running a sort of cookie cutter program or something that's been made as a template is that it's not going to be individualized for you. And I think it's smart in a lot of cases to try out different movements throughout your training and see what you get the best benefit from. And I had a really interesting conversation actually with Connor about athletes having this sort of innate sense of, oh, this feels like it's helping my squat, or this feels like it's helping my bench. And a lot of times that in and of itself is a really good indication that that movement's good for you and that movement is going to help that comp lift progress. But anyways, yes, I do switch up those movements, and that kind of brings me maybe a little bit of a departure, but it brings me to another question. Mehar asked, he's a local lifter from here in Canada out west, and he asked if I would be doing more work outside of the suit to help build strength from the floor. Now, I find that an interesting question because one of the things that I felt throughout this entire training cycle is that my deadlift was quite slow off the floor. Now, because I'm also planning to do more equipped training in the future, Mike chose to put deadlifts against chains as my accessory movement as opposed to pause deadlifts, which is normally what I do. Now, I find when I do pause deadlifts, I get very, very fast and very, very comfortable off the floor. This training cycle, I actually struggled with breaking the floor just this last week and in the first few weeks. So there was a good patch in the middle where I was kind of getting the hang of it, but not nearly what I would usually get in a raw training cycle. So I definitely feel like there's some bleed over of losing a little bit of strength from that bottom range of motion from both using the suit and from not doing pause deadlifts and opting for chain deadlifts. But the goal being staying strong through that top end range of motion while training raw and being able to come out the other side and perform well at Classic Nationals as well as the equipped deadlift only at the Arnold. So you can see some of the thought process and some of the reasons why people will choose accessory movements, thinking in both short term and in the long term. Do I think that my competition deadlift would have progressed better if I had done pause squats? Probably. But do I think that for the long-term goal of doing well at Nationals and hopefully really great at the Arnold, benefited from doing deadlifts against chains? Probably, yeah. So to come full circle back to the original question, I would try out the deficit deadlifts. I wouldn't switch movements too often because I find that makes it really hard to tell what is actually influencing your deadlift. So if you're switching every week, it's going to be impossible for you to tell whether the pause deadlifts or whether the deficit deadlifts are actually aiding your competition deadlift. But if you do each for a block of 4 weeks or a block of 5 weeks throughout the program, then by all means feel free to switch it up, see what works for you. I generally don't prescribe deficit deadlifts for sumo lifters, but if you use a small enough deficit, I think it's something that's worthwhile. But if you're a conventional deadlifter, by all means throw in some deficits in there. I found I got a lot of benefit out of them when I pulled conventional. Anyways, that's a bit of a long-winded way to say that I PR'd my bench and answer that question, but I'm pretty excited overall about how this block went. Looking forward to getting some deload in. We'll be putting out some other content throughout the next couple weeks to help bolster things, because you probably don't want to see me doing high bar sets of 10 and circuit training. But we will probably still film some of that stuff. We'll just try to pepper in some other stuff to keep things interesting. And I'll be back under heavy weights in about 2 weeks, getting ready for Nationals and the Arnold. We're also gonna be maybe coming out with some new apparel pretty soon. So if you like this stuff, go get it now while it's hot, while it lasts. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, all that good stuff. Keep asking questions in the comments below. I've been a terrible human being. I'm gonna go answer a bunch of them today, and we'll see you guys in the next video.